Speaking of economics, let's talk about value added. Let's think about your own activities, economic activities, work. How much value are you adding? I am here now recording these notes and later transcribing them. Is what kind of value am I adding? I guess at this point, very little that is not of personal interest unless somebody else reads or listens to these notes and learns something, and then there's some value added. But like this activity and almost every job today, they can be rather confusing and abstract to know how much value we are adding. So let's do an exercise where we consider some basic economic activities. Let's say I'm starting from the beginning. I won't be naked and afraid. That's a different story. If I don't have anything, how I'm gonna procure shelter and make a fire, that's something else. Let's say that I'm here and I have plenty of space here and lots of sunshine and rain. I'm going to plant tomatoes. Yeah, I know in the Amazon, the tomatoes don't like that much heat, but let's say that it's not that hot. So I'm planting tomatoes. I have seeds somehow from maybe a tomato I have or bought the seeds. So there's a little capital investment there in the seeds. And mostly it's gonna be a co-creation process where I'm putting my labor and my intelligence, and nature is giving me air, water, soil, fertilizing, compost. Although I grew self-fertilized some rather amazing tomato plants that grew up to be 7 feet high, 7 foot high. I composted my own poop, and the tomato plants really like that, and I love giving away those tomatoes because they had fed on my composted poop. So I'm taking care of these tomato plants. Sometimes rain helps, sometimes I water them. I keeping the horses away from the plants and other creatures from taking them, and I keep vigilant and remove ants and that come after the little plants. And I have found some natural things that keep ants away, like yerba mate from my mate at the time I was growing these tomato plants. By the end, some tomatoes are going to ripen, and I'm going to have this beautiful South American fruit, tomatoes, tomate. Yes, another food staple that came from South America. And now these tomatoes, I can give them away, I can trade them. A neighbor gives me chicken eggs and I give tomatoes, or I can sell them for cash and then get something else. But there's no doubt that there has been a lot of value added in this process. I'm not talking about the market value added, but I'm just talking about these tomatoes, the physical tomatoes that have been co-created between me and nature. Unless I have made some mistakes, basically all my labor has added value. So that's a simple activity that is almost 100% adding value. There are other activities where it gets harder to discern how much value we are adding. If I have a shop and I'm selling tomatoes, I get them from the market and wholesale, and then I retail them. I add in some value, but then I'm also having a very inefficient activity. Sometimes I remember in Uruguay, I could be living in the countryside, and the supermarkets got their fruits and veggies from a central market in the capital city of the country. So I could have local farmers who wouldn't sell their produce because they were bound to take it to the central market. So the produce will go travel all the way to the central market and then come back for retailing to markets. So we consider the value added of an activity. Should we tax at all when we are adding value? We're adding value, so why tax that? Shouldn't we tax the non-value added activities or tax the nature components of activities? My tomatoes have air and water, so maybe somehow I had to pay for that because there are plants that way we could discern among plants that are more efficient from that perspective, the use of air and water. Let's go to the other extreme now. When we get fuel for our cars at the pump, there's very little value added to the oil that was pulled from the ground. There was some refining, yes, and that's rather a distillery. It's a distillation, a rather simple process where the gas was evaporated from the oil and then condensed and shipped to the gas station. So it has been mostly transportation and extraction, and so when I pay at the pump, I'm getting a big chunk of nature with a little value added by a petrochemical plant, refinery. So most of these should be taxed. Also because I'm going to consume a great amount of oxygen to burn this gas, and I'm going to have a moving vehicle that creates pollution and damages the health of others. And roads are needed for this vehicle, and so I should be paying a lot of tax on this product because of the little value added. Most of the component, what I'm paying for is nature and liabilities. Consider your own job, your own economic activity, how much value you are adding. Let's say you're an artist, you're a photographer, you're working and you're using your intelligence and your devices especially to capture images, and some people get pleasure from them. So you are adding value, you are showing people the reality, you can enrich their lives. But then we are living in markets, free markets, supposedly they are perfect. We are living in markets determine the price of anything. So the value added is no measure in some sort of absolute term, but it's just a relative valuation by people, markets. The tomatoes are valued on scarcity. If there's a drought and there are fewer tomatoes, the tomatoes are more expensive, and that kind of makes sense on some level. But then markets are full of imperfections, and very quickly we get many devices that benefit certain people in these so supposedly perfect markets.